We have a quorum, so. Thanks, Jesse. Welcome, everybody, to the July 10th town board meeting, and we'll start the meeting with the pledge to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will begin the meeting with opportunity for privilege of the floor. And so if you're in Zoom land, raise your hand, and here, sign up. Do you want me to see? Sure. I think I saw Matt sign up.
You saw me sign up.
Okay. I think. Okay. Matt, next.
So we're at the crossroads of their town. You're about ready to interview and appoint somebody to sit on the seat for the next year or so. You've made some purchases in this town and had set forth an agenda. I hope that the person that you put in the seat has good common sense, physically, in the physical sense, and you guys can listen to them and try not to run us in a hole. I do not see broadband as a financial gain in any form of this town. You gotta buy it, build it, put it in, and run it. And with the numbers that I did, I saw a negative impact of it. We're already talking about raising the tax cap, doing that stuff. You've set forth an agenda, now you gotta pay for it. I advise caution, please. I'm a taxpayer and I'm paying way more than I want to between the town and the school district. The county taxes are reasonable, but they're not. And there will be other expenses that come to this town over the next period of time that may be unforeseen. I suggest treading softly. And I have said that I would sit on the board if it was appropriate. But I have no confidence with what I've seen so far, so please do something right and listen to counsel from other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt.
Mark, Janice Burton has her hand up.
Okay, Janice Burton's iPad, go right ahead. I think you should be able to unmute. Wait,
Hi.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I'm on a device that I usually don't Zoom on, so I'm struggling here with all the little controls, so excuse me for that. I just, because I'm here, I just lurking, I wanted to tell you the reason I was here is to, I wanted to hear the interviews with the candidates. And the last person that spoke, was that Matt Mix?
Yes,
Okay.
we do have, yeah, go ahead, Janice, but.
Anyways, he mentioned the tax law discussion, and I had written to Michelle about that today and asked her if you were anticipating an increase, or she didn't know if maybe you do this as an in-case measure. So I hope maybe I can find an easy answer to that question, and I look forward to being with you, and I'll probably leave abruptly when I find out what I need to, okay?
Okay.
Okay, thank you all.
Thanks, Janice, and don't leave too abruptly because I will answer your question about the tax cap. So this is something we've done in the past. It's just a common sense measure before we start budget season, so that if we need to override the tax cap, we can without penalty. And so we don't, we always strive to stay under the tax cap. We've done that every year since I became supervisor in 2016. And, so that's the answer.
Well, thank you. We know everybody's really edgy because of the new property assessments. Thank you, Mark.
Okay. You're welcome. And I understand, I do want to follow up on that because of the, assessments went up this year because of the housing market. But I do want to point out that the assessments that went up this year will be used to generate the total assessed value, the assessed value of the town for next year's taxes. And the tax levy, that's the tax amount that the town board decides is needed for services to the town, will be divided up into the total assessed value for each property. So that is the simplest way I can say it is if everybody's assessment doubled, it would have no effect on your taxes, going forward. The problem is that if you feel like your property is not assessed, appropriately, if it's, overassessed, but long-winded way, I'm just trying to say that the assessments don't really establish the taxes that you pay, the town board does.
I think we all know that. That's a separate issue. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. I'm glad to hear that, so thank you. Does anybody else want to chime in here?
No,
Okay, great.
it's a good question, Janice.
Yeah, and it's a pervasive concern, so. All right, with that, I want to move on to the interviews. We have 2 applicants for the vacant town board seat. And I want to express my appreciation to both candidates, Jonathan Bates and Jack O'Reilly, for putting themselves forward. They're both here in the town hall tonight. And they've sent us their resumes and their statements of interest. They're both very nice. So I guess I'll start with Jonathan, who's on the right here. And
Mark,
oh, yeah.
can I just clarify so that everybody's aware?
Yeah. Go
Of
ahead.
the situation that this is an interview for candidates who will serve temporarily on the town board through December. There's then 1 more year left in Cal Snow's term, which is the seat that's open. There will be an election for that seat this fall, with the general election period, so that the interviews that we're having right now are just for the interim period.
For the
I
next
just want
6 months.
everybody to know.
Yeah. Thank you.
But then that person could possibly run
Of course,
for the
yes,
rest of Kelsey.
yes,
But then they wouldn't be, I mean, they wouldn't be appointed starting in January, they would be elected.
yes.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Thanks for that clarification. Important. So with that, I will nod to Jonathan and just say, if you'd just like to make a statement for explaining your interest in the position and a little bit about yourself, that'd be great.
All right, sure. Thanks for the opportunity to come in and apply for this position. Let's see, I have been a resident of the town of Caroline since 2017. I was a renter for a good portion of that time, now a homeowner. Well, this is my 3rd summer as a homeowner resident of the town. I've been following town process and politics even before I moved here because my family lives here. And so it's been interesting and informative and educational to see the progression of the town over those years. And I think I'll just say that I bring, lots to the table, interested in learning more about municipal government, building relationships with community, furthering the strength of the town, as a town member. I bring business experience. I own my own business and have for 15 years, so I should say a profitable business, so I do know my business.
Would qualify.
And so, you know, I've been, if going down that road of business, I've been on multiple nonprofit boards over the last 15 years, essentially since college, and focusing on, you know, town organizations and municipalities. As board members, I've been treasurer of boards, I've been presidents of boards. So I know a little bit about, you know, facilitating meetings and being part of groups.
Robert's rules.
Robert's rules, good listener, and those kinds of things. So let me look at my notes. I had some other things to mention.
Sure.
Oh, I think for me personally, one of my main goals is to further the plan that the Ag Committee is coming up with for the town and kind of be the representative of the town board as that committee moves its plan forward. I feel pretty passionate about agriculture and the land, and think that it's important. It's the historical basis of this town, and I think it's got a lot of opportunities and potential for the future. So
Great.
questions for me?
Yeah, anything else? I'll just open it up for board members to follow up.
I guess I know I've read your statements, and I know you've talked about better communication, I think. Do you have any suggestions for how that would happen?
Within the board or between the town and the board?
Between the town and the board, I think.
Okay, you know, I have some ideas. One thing I may consider is that I've talked with some folks in the town that might want to have better conduits of communication between board members and interests that town folk have. And so one thought I had was like a working citizen committee that can think about interests and future possibilities and bring their thinking and hopes to the town through me as a representative of their work, or their thinking, their research, their projects. And that could go for any board member. You know, some of us represent particular neighborhoods or communities within the community. And having a voice for sets of neighborhoods or parts of the community that can kind of meet outside of this official municipal government to inform the work that we would be doing might be one way. Another way is, I know my wife Megan Barber sat on this board for a year. And I don't know if she actually got it fully enacted, but she was thinking about doing office hours where she would open an hour or two a week to give people opportunity to talk to them and hear about how the board is doing the work they're doing and provide input and support. That's another method.
As a council member.
Right.
Yeah.
There's many more, but I won't say all of them.
Okay, thanks.
You know, one of the, we have a number, as we heard in privilege of the floor, we do have a number of large ticket items on the docket. We're just instituting zoning. So we actually had the first review board meeting last night to consider the first case that would fall within zoning parameters. And so we're making adjustments in that direction. We have the broadband initiative, which we think is very exciting. We're in the process of revitalizing the town hall. in the process of finishing engineering studies to do a new town new town barn, or revitalized town barn. So I guess I was just interested to get a sense of where you might see yourself fitting into the projects that we currently have on the plate, in addition to what's coming.
Yeah, you know, I understand the technology on broadband. I don't know how it applies to municipal government, so that would be an educational experience for me. Renovating this building in the town barn, I have some experience with. I've done some general contracting and building myself. Have knowledge of how to work with contractors and building materials, so I could definitely support and inform those two projects. I spent 6 years working with a nonprofit that where I was doing residential energy auditing of residential homes. And so I have a building science perspective that comes from kind of an energy efficiency, building durability perspective. And so I can come at building projects from that perspective.
Mhm.
And what was the other big thing that we're doing? It's broadband, buildings, and
Highway barns.
Highway barns.
Zoning.
zoning, yeah, so zoning.
The little thing.
Yeah, well, so I understand planning, I understand land use, I've read the drafts of the zoning, zoning law. If I was, you know, to get really engaged or be on a committee for that, I would have to really look at it and understand it better. But I know about it in general, I know the drawbacks and benefits in general. And I'm educated about it, but definitely not an expert in zoning.
You know, something I've said is, a number of times is, what's really nice about living in Caroline is that people can volunteer to be on working committees, like that committee. And I just was wondering about the committee you were talking about for communication. I'm not sure, how does that differ from, say, the planning committee or you know, that worked on the comprehensive plan and, you know, that did outreach, or
It'd be
or them calling, somebody calling and say, hey, what about a park? I don't know,
Yeah.
something, right? And starting a committee. I'm just,
It would be a citizen committee, so it wouldn't be associated with municipal government at all. It'd be citizens organizing themselves and informing council. Rather than an individual coming to the board and saying, I
Okay.
want, or I
It would be a
need,
group.
it's a group of citizens saying, we want, we need. It's a
Okay.
different way to communicate. In some states in the US, Vermont is one very powerful democratic state that still does their town
Town hall day.
day.
Yeah.
That's more, to me, a more collaborative citizen engagement.
Mhm.
Rather than privilege of the floor, it's important, but it's very disconnected from how the politicians interact with the community. And so having citizen committees allow folks to organize and discuss and bring their thoughts and concerns through representative
Mhm.
or through their board rep.
That's
But
interesting.
it would be on my own time, it wouldn't be time, it wouldn't be something I would do as my time on the board, it would be me as a citizen, and then that would inform me to be able to.
Yeah.
Speak better as a.
It sounds intriguing, that I knew about the town hall day in Vermont, I just, all of a sudden, I'm like, how does that really work? What do they do? How do they do that? How do they organize it? Not sure, but I'm intrigued, because I've always really thought that was cool, so.
Well, we used to have it in New York. It's on
Because we
the
used to
sign,
be
it's on the sign
Vermont, right?
right down the road.
That's right.
I don't know the history of why I got rid of, but
I think the local government got reorganized. It's a legal thing, that happened, I don't know when. I remember looking into the Vermont meetings, so, okay. Have you read the comprehensive plan?
about a year and a half ago, or whenever it was reenacted, was that a year ago? I don't
More than
know.
that.
Wasn't it?
Okay, 2 years ago, yes. I would read it again because, you know, being someone that's on the board, I need to know kind of where we're headed and where we want to go, so. I know that's important.
Great. Well, thank you, Jonathan.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Great. Okay, so, now we'll turn to Jack. Welcome, Jack.
Howdy.
And, I guess I'll start the same way. If you just want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your interest in serving on the board. So-
Yeah, so my backstory as it relates to moving to Carolina is pretty similar to Jonathan's. I got here fairly recently. My wife and I moved to Boyville in 2021 when I started at Ithaca College. And we went from renting to homeowning, we bought a house down the street. It's the first house I've ever bought. And it's been sort of a revelatory experience for us coming from the deep south and moving here and seeing just sort of, my wife moved to South Carolina, I went to college in South Carolina. I'm from Florida, so it's just sort of a different place here. And we were just sort of taken in, and we came back from Florida this morning, and driving through here, we were just like transfixed by the amount of farms and how beautiful it is, and the open spaces and the freshness of the water. Things that Florida is rapidly losing, and this is a thing that we sort of strive to maintain here. And what struck me is when you first asked for volunteers, is I thought this would be something that a lot of people would be doing. There were more applicants for the review board than there are applicants for this council, and so I said in my initial email, I'm sure there are people vastly more qualified than I am, but if there aren't, I'm here, hello.
Yeah.
And so I anticipated it being a much wider process, and it sort of strikes me as interesting that it isn't. And the way I'd like to approach this is coming from like a historian's background. I'm a learned history in college, and I'm a school teacher, I'm a social studies teacher. And what I want to sort of drive home or emphasize is that I don't know a whole lot about municipal government, and I know less about farming, and I recognize that. And I think that's important to recognize, and to say that I come at it with kind of a blank slate, you know, like I'm as interested in what these three men have to say as I am about what you four have to say about how this government works, because it's them that actually have to touch the land, you know, that actually do things in the ground. Not that y'all don't, I don't know what you do in your day careers, but
Yeah, how do you quote?
clothing wise, the clothing looks different, you know, it's sort of, it's like, it's sort of two different jobs. And
Stay in our ivory tower and just, you know.
But
Make laws.
I come at this knowing that I don't know a lot about the things that matter to all of you all. And I kind of think that's an advantage in the sense that there is some sort of ingrained friction, I think, here between political parties or groups of people or you and everyone else. And it seems that there is this sort of divide that I hope maybe a new face without any preconceived notions of how things should be done or who is who. It can just come in and listen and do their best with what they hear and what they read and what they have to work with. As compared to coming in here saying, I'd like to do this with the town council because I know it helped me or it would help so and so. I just want to approach this from best practice. What is common sense? What should we be spending our money on and how? And how do we make this more of a community effort? Like anticipating your question about, or I guess it's sort of feeding off what you wrote in there about improving communication. There's only 3 people in here that aren't asking you for something right now. Like I think we need to have more butts in seats. Like the way that you build a sort of democratic community is getting people more excited to come in here and talk about it and try sort of get their opinions out in the open. I think the night that zoning was passed, the place was built, you know, and it would be kind of cool to have it like that on a more consistent basis and to have people be sort of excited to come in here and tell you what they think. Not as antagonists, but as partners, as, you know, co-conspirators. And so I just hope that I can try and bring that perspective of, I know how to read, I know how to solve problems. I might not know the ins and outs of the zoning law. I've read the comprehensive plan. I like the comprehensive plan. How do we make that work for the people of this town? How do we make zoning something that works in the way that y'all want it to, and in a way that's palatable to those that don't like it? And I think that's going to be complicated. And frankly, it seems like an exciting chance to get into that and be someone that's actually directly affecting that, not just taking the floor to make my piece. Someone that actually has legislative authority to sort of help drive that process is a really exciting concept, especially because I've studied so much government in my life. It'd be exciting to actually have some some teeth in it. But we like the area, we love the 6 Mile Creek is I just think the coolest thing. I can walk down there and get my feet wet at any time, and it's just a lovely place to live. I think just about everyone here is pretty friendly. I like the way that y'all do politics in the sense that it's not as, we come from Florida again, where things are just really uncomfortable for everybody politically. And it doesn't seem that way here, even if some people are frustrated with the way things go. It's not as bad as it is in other places, and I'd like to try and keep that and sort of make that, just maintain that sort of atmosphere and perhaps drive it forward. And I guess that's my piece.
Thank you. I guess as far as follow up with the town initiatives, are there ones that you would be excited about getting involved in, or that catches your fancy or anything?
I think to my point, original point about not knowing a lot about these things, like question about broadband internet, is that just the idea of getting everyone have access to better internet? Is that what we're trying to do, or we're trying to give the town, this building better internet?
Oh, about that,
What is broadband? Can you give me the gist of what we're trying to do with broadband?
oh, okay, I'd be happy to, but I don't wanna go on too long, but so we just got a grant the town board, a couple years ago, actually, committed its ARPA funds, which, the ARPA funds were, designated for certain infrastructure from the federal government, and one of them was broadband to provide, and broadband during the pandemic, that's what we heard from people. We need, we're trying to work from home, our kids are at home, we need broadband service, we need internet service, so,
Can I just interrupt?
yes.
Living in Sladeville, you may not realize that people that don't live in Sladeville often have a very difficult time getting broadband at all.
My internet's terrible, I live right here.
Right, well, I live up top of Buffalo Hill,
Mhm.
and for a while, when my service provider just stopped providing service, I literally had no broadband. I mean, I've never had broadband, I had no internet.
No, none at all. And so
Right.
is the
So-
broad strokes of it, we're trying to make it so that folks who live here can have internet.
Yes.
Exactly, affordable,
So
affordable, high quality internet
And
for everybody.
And municipal owned.
Okay, so that excites me a lot. I hear that it's expensive, and I'm curious about how the dollars and cents of it shake out, but I'm also knowing that this has gone from a lumber and farming community to a farmer and bedroom community for Cornell, knowing that a lot of the people that live and work here need internet. That seems like a pretty open and shut case for me, that's something that needs to get done. It's 2024, we have to have internet for folks that work here, in order to work. So that interests me. I think the thing that sparked most of my interest is how do we make this zoning thing something that works for everybody? Because I think it's an inherent good, and that I think a lot of people don't. And so I'd like to try and merge that into something that, as you said before in the zoning meetings, it's a fluid document. It's not set in stone. It doesn't just end with that meeting. There's decades to come where we can help shape it in the way that we want to. And I think being on the ground floor of that and trying to shape it the way we want to is an exciting proposition. And important, really important for the town.
Great. So I turn it over to any other follow-ups or.
I guess it would just be interesting to know how much financial experience you've had in terms of dealing with budgets or planning
So
budgets or writing grants,
So
something of that nature.
I'm not a contractor and I've never been on a nonprofit. The closest thing I have to budgetary experience is being the director of football media operations at West Point, where I had a budget of like 75 grand a year and had to work that out with all these different camera systems and different things that we were purchasing. And I can tell you that my first year there, I looked at the budget and I said, we're spending way too much on insurance. How much is each camera? If you blow up a whole camera and buy a new one, it's $12,000. We're insuring the whole system for 60 grand a year. If every single camera breaks, it'll cost us 120 grand to fix it. So if they don't break, they'd have to break every 2 years for it to be justified. So I called the company and said, we're not paying this anymore. And we took that 60 grand and reinvested it into the cameras to make them function better. We spent on it. By the time I left, we had no highlight cameras. And by the time we left, we had like 100 grand worth of them. So my experience in it was limited, to say the least, but my principle was, why are we throwing good money away when we could be applying it somewhere else? So that's something I'd have to lean on y'all for, but my general principle is I'd like everyone here to pay less and us to get more out of it, is the gist, but I am not quite as probably detail oriented, and as you look at the spreadsheet, it takes me a little while to figure out what I'm looking at, but that would be a growth opportunity, we would say, as a teacher, for me.
Good great.
You answered my question.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll just, in terms of fairness, repeat my question, which, like, do you have specific ideas for improving communication between the town board and people in town?
Mark can tell you that I have a very hard time finding out when things are happening here. I email him like twice a week asking things that other people just need to know. And so I think my simplest thought when you asked that question, knowing that it was gonna come to me, was we should be sending out mailers of when these things are and inviting people directly. Inviting the people who live in the town, tell them you want them here, tell them that they're valued here, and try and get them in the door here. And that's how I would improve that sort of communication and that, make it something that's worth coming to. Like my wife knows I'm trying to be in the town council and she's like, oh, shit. She's sitting there, she's like right there and she doesn't want to go. So I think, I don't know that you make municipal government exciting, but you might make it more enticing. We might find a way to make it so more folks want to come because they think they're going to be listened to, not just heard. Find ways to incorporate people in these meetings, is my simplest answer.
Because sometimes they're really exciting, I think.
Yeah, maybe too.
Can you explain the difference between listened to and heard?
Well, you can hear me say something and it can go right through, the next day you might not have heard what I said. Listening to is taking it in and really sitting with it, and whether or not you accept it or not is really up to you. But listening to it is not just waiting for the person to stop talking, but truly taking in what they're saying and working with it, is how I define that.
I agree with that. So
That's what we try to do.
live by it.
I agree with it also, but it's been my experience that often people don't think you've heard them unless you agree with them.
Right, no, and I think that's totally valid, and I think what my hope is to somehow try and cross that deeply difficult human bridge, to make that, yeah, so that's a tricky one, but that's my general take on it.
Other questions or comments for Jack?
Because, so, thank you.
Yeah.
So you grew up in Florida?
I did, yeah, I left at 18, I joined the Army at 18. Lived in Georgia for a few years, in Texas for a few years, and then got out and went to Clemson because they had a good football team. And the pretty girl I liked went to Clemson. And so that's not a great, those are not good reasons to go to college, but those are the reasons I went to Clemson. And I had a wonderful time and got a degree in history. And then came up here to get my came up here to work at West Point, got out of football and moved here, and we've been here ever since.
Great.
Yeah, we're living here.
Well, welcome. Yeah.
Mark, when will the town board make a decision on this?
Not tonight, but I think we'll probably decide next week, at next week's meeting.
During the meeting?
We'll announce it at the meeting. Yeah. Any other calls for either candidate?
Thanks for stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, thank you both for stepping up. I really appreciate it. So I do have to tell you that we're gonna have to choose one of you.
We can do like a fight up front, like a solve this assembly.
And I think we all really appreciate you putting yourselves forward. Thank you so much. So.
Is it the expectation that we be here to hear the announcement next week? Does that make the most sense? Or?
Yeah, I think, well, my thinking is we'll let you know in advance. I don't see any reason we wouldn't do that. So,
Alright.
yeah.
Mark, may I ask a follow-up? If the board is gonna decide, that has to be done at a meeting.
Well, we can,
Are you gonna announce a special meeting or do it during?
we're not gonna have a special meeting between now and then, I suppose. So we don't decide in public session. We won't do that. So I would suggest that maybe tonight we could have an executive session at the end of the meeting to talk about it, but my goal is to make a decision by next week and let the candidates know, so.
I think as a follow-up to that, you probably will send an email about it, but once we're chosen, when would we start?
Then you're stuck.
But when was that night or the next meeting? August meeting?
Typically what we've done is ask the candidate to be seated that night.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. There's no special ceremony or anything that has to happen in advance, you just get to come up and sit down.
We're both disappointed.
Yes.
Don't they have to take a little vote or something
What?
Don't we have
Oh,
to
yeah,
vote?
within a month of,
with Jesse?
within a month of being appointed, then you'll have to go to the town clerk and do your oath and get
Yeah.
signed into a little book. And if you don't, you're not on the
You're
board.
not official. Okay.
I mean, once you're informed, it's always good, you could bring in treats or something.
Bribery after the fact.
Yeah, I mean, you know, if you wanna make it festive, let's.
There's no blueberries around, bringing.
Well, and
Oh,
Cal
yes.
always brought chocolates, just no pressure.
But yeah, really good
We
chocolate.
lost the chocolates. Well, thanks so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you, guys. All right, so,
Yeah.
Do we leave now or?
you can leave or stay or. Good question.
We've got some really exciting things,
Really exciting stuff that's coming up now. See, you know, part of the decision making will be who doesn't fall asleep on it.
Yeah.
Or who stays asleep the longest.
To follow up on Janice's question and the discussion at the beginning about the, I should have said this at the beginning too, is, I mean, we're introduced, this is the start, kind of the start of budget season about this time of year. So it makes sense to put the tax cap override forward and get that out of the way so you don't forget about it and then make a mistake. So,
Can I just follow up on that?
Yeah.
So, when Janice wrote to me, I told her we hadn't discussed this, but that I assumed it was something that happened every year, just as a, you know,
yeah,
just in case, scenario.
Right.
I think so.
that is true, but it hasn't happened every year.
I mean, you haven't introduced this override thing every year.
I have done it some years, but not
Okay.
others.
All right, but I
But
told her that we didn't have, as far as I knew, we didn't have plans to go.
that's correct. That's absolutely correct. And I always, you know, that's always our goal. I will follow that by saying our job here is to provide services to our community. And right now, we're faced with, as Matt alluded to, we're faced with some opportunities and some responsibilities that are expensive. And one of them is rebuilding the highway barns that are now more than 50 years old. Even though we got, for the broadband project, we did get an with the town of Dryden, $8.9 million grant for that.
Top of our 600,000.
In top of ours, yeah, 470,000. Then we'll be managing it forward, managing the operational costs forward. We did get a feasibility study that showed the cash flow and positive cash flow within a couple years, so we haven't done this without doing our homework, and that's one of the reasons that we got the grant. We planned a couple years in advance to engage with Hunt Engineering. Kate wrote the grant to the county. And the county gave us $132,000 to supplement our ARPA funds to engage a feasibility study with Hunt Engineering to examine the feasibility of this for Caroline and begin a partial build out of municipal broadband in Caroline. And so we were well situated for this moment in time. That was planned. We knew this was coming. And I think this has paid off. The state has recognized the value of where we are. They're very appreciative that we've taken this on. And you know, broadband is not something that I know a lot about, so it's challenging in that way. But I'm super excited about this. This is really really something that, because this isn't just patching up holes. This is providing enhanced competition and an option for residents that has a mechanism to maintain affordability. So I'm super excited about it.
Right, because the town will be in charge of how much it costs. We're not making a profit.
Right.
And it's just fantastic. We can work with Dryden, who's done a lot of the work. They're already signing people up, they're already building out.
Yeah.
And the state, and Schumer's office, you know, has spent a lot of time vetting the whole program and checking it out. And I feel very confident in the whole project. It's really exciting.
And
to
this
get it
is-
done.
This has also come on the heels of roughly 15 years of trying to work with private providers
Mhm.
to reach unserved addresses in Caroline in fits and starts.
Exactly.
And to this date, none of them have adequately picked up the ball unless they think that they can make a very, very significant profit doing it. So that this also comes out of years of struggle of trying to make this work with the, let's call it the status quo infrastructure. And we were just fortunate that Dryden provided a beacon of light about how this might work and has offered partnership with us. It's really exciting and a very pioneering
Yeah,
public infrastructure project for the state.
yeah,
It's,
they're a great team.
and it's, you know, and it's money from ARPA. And so we don't have to have like 20% or 50% matching. It's absolutely fantastic that we got this money. I was bouncing off the walls about it. So I know it'll calm right now, but, it's, you know, I know Don Barber really worked hard to try to get money from the state to do build out, and it just wasn't available at the time. So I'm really thankful that the federal government and the Biden administration came out, with this money. So.
Okay, anyway,
That's probably,
that's a long-winded.
yeah, long-winded.
Anyway, just,
Like I said,
I did want to just.
Yeah.
I did anticipate, that we may face budgetary challenges this year. So I want to be ready for that if we do have to override the tax cap, but I don't want to. But again, I think I love the tax cap because it's a reminder that, you know, to be, as you mentioned, fiscally prudent, to think about how you spend money. But we also like have that responsibility to provide services, and services vary over time. So we got to be prepared for that. So anyway, I put the text of the introduced local law, which our attorney, I asked him about it one year, like, is this okay? He said, it's just a form. So this is the tax cap override law, which allows a local municipality to override the tax cap if you have to. Doesn't require you to. It just gives you that latitude.
it just gives us the authority.
Yeah.
We're giving ourselves the authority to override the tax.
We are.
Okay.
And so,
Are we doing any reports before we do the local laws? I just don't see them.
yeah, so, yeah, we should do committee reports. Let's do it. So consider the tax cap override introduced, right? So I'm not gonna read it all. You can read it in the text. So
This copy, did you want to get, I think there's copies over there. Is that right? Other copies of the.
that's the agenda. Yeah, it has it. Yes, it does have it in.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible. I got it.
It was on the original agenda,
Was it?
yes. And it somehow evaporated.
I was probably trying to get the agenda on one page or something like that. I don't know. Okay, so I would like to open it up for committee reports.
Well, I'll report that the review board held its first ever meeting last night to consider what are we calling that again? Sorry, I'm just to consider
A residential application in the stream corridor
In the stream
overlay
corridor,
district,
yeah.
the zoning law. Yeah,
and so this was the first time that the review board met vis-a-vis the zoning law. And our acting code and zoning enforcement officer came to the meeting, I thought made a very elaborate presentation to to the review board about the project at hand because he inherited it and then has tried to work between various parties to come up with something both feasible and reasonable. So that went I thought the meeting went very, very well. I mean, it's clear that the review board is going to learn how to administer the zoning law in bits and pieces, and so this was the first bit. And so we even today had to do the first application form that we didn't even have, so that they can have a follow-up meeting next week on this one particular project. But I thought it was just good to
Got their feet wet.
mention.
Yeah. And they work out a process or.
And the process is happening, and it went much more smoothly than I thought it would for the first go around. And
I'm
that's
sorry.
the work.
Sorry, Tim, could you just repeat when the next meeting is?
Oh, and the next meeting of the review board is in 2 weeks
Oh, okay.
on Tuesday, right, Mark?
It's on the fourth Tuesday of the month, whatever that is. Is it the 23rd?
That sounds right.
I think it's the 23rd. It's the
Thank
fourth
you.
Tuesday. Yeah,
And it's a special meeting, so that they're having a special meeting to handle this particular case. But then I think that then the review board decided to change their meetings to that Tuesday.
yeah,
So they'll actually begin the first rotation of having it on the last Tuesday of every month.
Oh, okay.
fourth, because sometimes there's five.
Fourth, yeah,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you, thank you.
So not the second night.
No,
Correct.
Okay.
that's my report.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good meeting.
I already talked about the broadband committee, kind of. So, yeah.
You are going to?
No, I said I already talked about. it.
Oh, okay, I see.
Already said we got the grant
Yeah.
and,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah.
The state's working.
Those are some part.
It was,
Joyous.
yeah, I mean. It's, can't remember if we talked about this before. We had planned on doing the entire town and the state came back and said they'd like us to do the entire town. So we actually got more money than we had originally asked for. So,
Quite a bit more.
quite a bit more, yeah. And I think the guy from Connect All was impressed that Dryden's already hooking people up. Yeah, I guess the other thing is that they're putting out, so the first step is to get poll permits done. And applications for the poll permits, they're still working on that. So
It's great.
different steps.
I have a little bit to say about the street,
Okay,
the history room committee, in that we're having our second meeting tomorrow, which will be a tour of the history room. And trying to locate where their information is. They've digitized a bunch of things and I don't think anybody, I'm not sure if people know where they are, but you know.
what's the acronym for the group again?
It's HRAC, so it's History Room Advisory Committee.
You have to learn acronyms and look it up.
I'm really bad at acronyms, yeah. And kind of associated with that, I had a conversation with the assistant county clerk about putting digitized images up on Laserfish, and it's free. We have like 4 different accounts that we could, including one for the history room. So it's a matter of kind of coordinating this and seeing who would do it. And so I'm looking into some grants that you can apply for grants that apparently cover the cost of scanning equipment. Because I think getting somebody to do it is like the weakest link here.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so it's just a small thing about backing up some of these historical records.
Cool.
Thank you.
And also I'm working on the disaster plan slowly, where we have a template to fill out. We have to locate where shut off valves are and who would we call to come in and take out materials. And I think probably this is going to be a town board discussion at some point, but so we're just filling in this information.
Great. You said the assistant county clerk was pretty excited about this.
She was excited about us putting more information up, yeah, in all of these accounts, you know, they're really not being used, so, just a matter of changing the password and, you know, we can put it up. So,
But then, you said we have to be trained in how to organize it, or do we have to?
well, we don't have to be, we can choose how we want to organize it. There's a link that gives you like sort of best practices and, you know, how to name things and how to. I was looking at one of the links today and it, you know, it takes you step by step, but I think it might be worth having a meeting and doing some of this together with whoever wants to put it up, so.
Great.
I mean,
Great.
Jessie would be she's our official, I think, records officer, so she would be somebody,
Mhm.
she's listening, who would. We'll have to have a meeting, Jessie. Anyway, so just slowly moving towards it. And for the benefit of you all that are listening, the disaster plan is just a plan of, you know, if we had a flood, which is possible in 6 Mile Creek, if we had a fire, that also brings in the possibility of water damage. It's like, who do you call to come and take the stuff out, where we're gonna send it to get it, you know, freeze dried or whatever, you know, it's just kind of the nuts and bolts of like, the radiators boil over, who's gonna come and turn it off and things like that. It's just having a list of people that have agreed to come in and do that kind of stuff. And I did talk to Greg Harrington about it and about the plan he was working on. And he said one of the problems was that they didn't talk to people before putting them on the list, like they didn't. So, you know, we have to do that. We have to actually talk to people and we'll agree to say, yes, you can call me at 2 o'clock in the morning if there's, you know, flooding over the town hall. I will get up and I will come over and turn it off.
Yeah, Greg has served as the water officer in that capacity for as long as I've been supervisor.
Yeah, just the time I spoke to him, he had some ideas about relabeling some of the pipes and shelves and stuff like that, so. You know, we just have.
That'd be great.
We just have to sit down and.
Yeah.
Talk about it. I've just been kind of introducing it to people, so,
It's great.
you know,
Excellent.
so.
Thanks, Michelle. Anything else to chat about? Great.
I just mentioned we got this
Oh, you might as well,
email about noise, and I think we should just
Oh,
put
right.
that on the agenda for the next meeting.
No,
for the next meeting?
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay,
Because, so we have a chance to think about it.
I got the Trails Committee, I missed the meeting yesterday.
oh my gosh, I missed it, I was hoping you made
Oh,
it.
no.
So,
Okay, I thought about it at 2:30 too, at 3:30. I got the grant in, so we're
Yeah.
just waiting to hear.
that was last
Wait a
month.
while.
Yeah.
Did I already say that last month? Yeah, I got that on the 17th, so. Anyway, so things are
Yeah,
quiet. Actually, they talked about brush removal, that was in the notes that I'll put out.
I saw that, I thought that was a great note, so I
Yeah.
wish I'd been at the meeting,
Yeah,
because I totally agree about that.
Yeah. So,
So,
okay,
yeah,
so, and getting a Friends of the Trail group started,
did he mention that?
he mentioned that, yeah.
Okay,
So, yeah. In the email he put out.
I can tell you that there are people ready to go in that
Mhm.
regard, so.
And should we be thinking about a broadband committee also?
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that, because, so. The, so basically, the current broadband committee. Kate and I have joined. The Drive Network, so, you know, certainly if we wanted to add a person or something, that would be okay, but. I'm not sure that it's needed or whatever, it's
We're
the
not
thing.
doing our own municipal.
No, we're
Yeah.
not, we're not gonna be managing separately
Correct,
from
yeah.
them. And this became really apparent at the meeting we did have, so we're gonna be having weekly meetings with the state Connect All office
Wow.
on this.
For a little while, yeah.
Well, for 30 months, because it has to be
Yeah.
done in 30 months,
Good.
which is terrifying and exciting.
No, they said they go weekly and then they go bi-weekly.
Oh, they
and
did?
then they said
Okay, I missed that
so-
part. Okay, so they'll let
Or
them.
they just determine that you're
Just heard
good
weekly.
children.
Yeah, yeah.
No, yeah,
It's, I think most of their projects, I got the idea that most of their projects are really just starting up. So, First Dryden's already got things rolling.
Well, and there's also an executive director for this project.
yeah, so
Right.
this came up in the idea that we've been tossing around, well, maybe ours should be called Caroline Fiber or something like that. But really the argument we made to the state when we did this is we can achieve a lot of cost saving by sharing services with Dryden.
And Dryden will too,
And
Dryden benefits.
And we don't wanna create something that's called something else that will confuse people who are subscribing, so, the other reason for these, accelerated early meetings is this is going on everywhere, and contractors are gonna get gobbled up, so they're telling us, move now, before you're gonna get pushed so far back, so,
Because we do have that time limit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
All the better.
yeah, so.
And I could see in the future, like, a year or two from now, when people are actually hooking up, one problem Dryden's had, is older people not understanding how broadband is cable. And like actually volunteers going to people's houses and say, let me help you figure out your TV without cable.
You're going, where's my MTV?
Yes, yeah, or just,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think that, yeah, so I think what you're saying, and I agree with you, if we needed to, we could have an outreach committee that
Yeah.
could go great guns as far as, getting people.
Yep.
yeah,
subscribed, but-
Dryden Fiber said that, getting the grant, having the press coverage has really increased people wanting to sign up for just.
That's great.
Putting their name on it.
Including Caroline,
Yes,
they've got like
yeah, you can put your name on it now.
people Caroline,
Yeah.
subscribed, so,
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No,
no,
it's a good
Great.
question, because we had thought we were going to need
Yeah.
more, and we actually are gonna be, relying on Dryden.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
great. Any follow-ups on that or further questions? But yeah. I guess I will mention in regard to that I did reach out to Municipal Solutions, who's the company that's gonna be helping us, with our bonding. Because, we're likely to need a lot more than $470,000 pretty soon. Especially because most of the build out, is in Caroline, so, and because we have to know. While we're doing budget, what we might need to do budgetarily to accommodate this, so. Anyway, so that's in works.
We also have-
He proposed a meeting with the Dryden team and everybody in their bond council, so.
because we're getting the majority of the money, so it's not a 50-50. We talked about how to split that 100,000 that we were trying.
We did,
No, the million that we have to come up with, so, because it's more than the money we set aside, as you were saying.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
no, so the problem is that these grants are reimbursement grants.
right,
So you get the money back, but you have to spend it first. So we have to have some funds to
Right.
spend, and
Push back
this might be
and
more funds than we have on hand now to spend.
Right.
So we do have a healthy fund balance.
but, yeah,
We might need more, and that's what that's what Municipal Solutions does, advises towns on. That, we're also gonna have to think about this in relation to the highway project.
Yeah.
And whether we need to push that out a ways, or maybe we can take it on simultaneously, I don't know, I don't think so, I think we're gonna have to stage them. But
We'll figure it out.
we'll figure it out, it'll be fun. New territory. Okay, So I did already introduce the tax cap. Now I wanna offer a resolution to set the public hearing on that, to override the tax cap. Just because for any local law, you have to have a public hearing before you vote on it. So that's what the next resolution states, and I set it for 7 PM at the beginning of our next meeting.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Tim, great. And, great, any questions? So I'll call for a vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, great, unanimous.
So you have time to get this published in the journal?
What's that?
This has to be, this resolution has to be published in the journal?
It does, so, there's a public notice portal, so, it's teed up to publish
Okay,
in the next couple of days, so. Has to be published 5 days before has to be 5 days before the public hearing. Okay, so that's taken care of. So the next, the meaty thing tonight is that I wanted to discuss final tweaks to the subdivision, I hope, but whatever. Subdivision review law. So, I've chatted about it a little bit.
Just looking to see if anybody from the planning board was in the meeting, and they're not.
Yeah. No, so, let's see, we did the top of this. So let's see, the main thing that I wanted to walk back or change is to, for minor subdivisions, which are subdivisions of lots into 4 lots or fewer, 2 to 4 lots. We had previously said, let's make the public hearing discretionary. And I've come up with 2 reasons that I think we shouldn't do that. One is that our town attorney believes that that's not something you can supersede in town law, that you can just override by home rule authority. Secondly, he doesn't think it's a good idea. That's the last step, to let the public have input or a view of any lot subdivision that's happening in the town. Our planner has pointed out that every lot subdivision is just a significant land use change in a town, and so they really should not be done carelessly or without review. If they are simple lot subdivisions, the review process won't be a big deal, so.
Are you suggesting that shouldn't be discretionary, it should be mandatory?
I'm suggesting it should be mandatory. So I'm saying we walk back that, we had previously put in the law that it was discretionary, and so I'm proposing that we make it mandatory as, so. So before we leave that topic, is everyone okay with that?
I mean, from my perspective, both Guy and Nan have made very, very persuasive cases why we should make this mandatory. And even attending last night's review board meeting was so clear why.
Yeah.
Letting the public know that these things are happening and giving them the opportunity to have input into them is really crucial, because
Yeah,
regardless of the size, neighbors might have very particular reasons for expressing concern about something.
yeah.
And if we don't have the public hearing, we'll never know.
right.
That same thing occurred to me, Tim, even though last night wasn't a subdivision of a lot, but it was the same nature of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, this really convinces me this is the right way to go.
No,
So-
I agree.
Great.
I mean, I think it's interesting with when we were discussing zoning, that people were concerned about having, things like should or things be encouraged, and I think having something be discretionary is kind of the same thing. that you're leaving it up to this decision possibly by one person or just, even a few people. I think that the more things that are, yes or no
Yeah,
is the better.
well, if I'm on the review board, I don't wanna get to the point where it's, okay, does this project get a public hearing or not? They have to decide it all of a sudden. That's a really awkward position to be in.
Yeah. That's why I agree with you.
Great, okay,
And an unnecessary step for them,
yeah,
because they have to take a step to make
To
the
have to
decision.
discuss whether or not to have it, I
Right.
think,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Just makes it simple.
I think it simplifies the process.
Yeah.
okay. I think we're unanimous on that. That's
Yeah.
great. Thank you. I do want to just step back a bit to the lot line adjustments. And I originally proposed that lot line adjustments, just saying, be included as a form. So according to the Department of State document that we all read, towns get to decide this, is a lot line adjustment a subdivision or not? I think it certainly can be, in some cases, and in many cases it wouldn't be. It's probably just a little tweak between neighbors. It's like, so your, I don't know, park bench or beaver pond is on the other side of the line or something, but at any rate, the way we have it now is that lot line adjustments are not subdivisions. They're they're signed off on by the code officer. The proposal by Bill, the planning board chair, and Guy weighed in on this too, is that it might be a good idea for a review like that to be signed off by but be looked at by more than one person. And so the proposal was it could be the code officer and the chair of the planning board or the review board. So.
And just for history's sake, the review board recommended keeping it all in the code officer.
Yeah, but that's when they were thinking it would
Right,
be
not
either
just-
review board going
Yeah,
forward.
I'm just
Right,
rehearsing the past.
right.
Well, I like the idea that there are two pairs of eyes on it. Just,
My concern about that procedurally is that then divides up the work of the review board and stratifies it as opposed to just having the review board,
Either the review board does it or the code officer does it.
having the review board do it. And if you have both the code officer and the chair of the review board, that also potentially overcomplicates the process, even though it's supposed to make it simpler. I don't think it would make it simpler. I think it would just be more immediate. So my recommendation in a way is, as much as possible, is to streamline everything through the review board. And then allow the review board to decide how it wants to economize, how it does its work. But
So you're proposing that lot line adjustments go to the review board?
go back to the review,
What's that?
they go back to the review board like we had originally, that's.
I mean, in practice, I would be fine with the code officer doing all lot line adjustments. But what we've seen recently, very, very recently, with previous code officers is that decisions about these lot line adjustments and or rural subdivisions are just made in one office. They sit in one office.
Yeah, a
The
quick
town government does not know that it happened
Yeah.
necessarily, even though it should be communicated, but it isn't always.
Mhm.
And there's absolutely no oversight of that process. In the very, very best of goodest worlds, that wouldn't matter, but things are complex. And so we have a situation now, we're in the fall, between the fall and when we passed zoning, there was something like 10 small subdivisions lotted out with we had no idea that this was going on or what the consequences are, how they relate to one another. So the very, very few lot line adjustments that would fall under that category should be looked at by the review board.
So let me clarify that, are you proposing that we not classify lot line adjustments as subdivisions, but we do refer them to the review board?
That's what I would do.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So there wouldn't be a full review process for a lot line adjustment.
So then the consequence of that,
Well, I guess couldn't we
it
make
would
that
mean
up
it
to the
wouldn't have a
discretion?
public hearing.
Could we make that up to the discretion of the review board? I mean, most lot line adjustments are not gonna need a public hearing.
Right, I don't think they need a public hearing. I don't understand why the code officer would be the one to approve it.
I hadn't thought of this. I think it's a good idea.
Which? To have the review
So,
board,
so we don't classify lot line adjustments as subdivisions,
but they're still looked at by the review board.
but then we refer them to the review board,
That
and
makes
the
sense.
review board signs off on
That makes sense to me. It should be really quick. I mean, if it's a really quick,
it. And the alteration to the current draft would be to just change code officer to review board.
yeah,
One word, 1, 2.
I think I agree with that.
Okay, I think I'm,
I really think the danger of having one person decide is that there's always the possibility or the possibility of accusation of favoritism, and I think if it's decided by
yeah,
the group
Or
I
graft,
I mean,
favoritism or graft.
or whatever, yeah, and I just think it's better just. to
more
say-
eyes and more brains is
Right.
better.
And if it's just a quick, it should just be quick, right? You
Yeah.
can probably do them in the manner, several in the manner.
Yeah, so that would be a one meeting
Yeah.
thing, so, okay,
Oh, are we?
Am I allowed to add a
sure, oh, sorry,
question or a statement?
you can,
Just something that came well to the top of my head was the history of building code officers changing
yeah,
often also affects decision making.
yeah,
And you lose consistency.
there's no
There's
continuity,
no continuity, and so
Okay.
3,
yeah,
inspectors go, won't be communicating with the 3 ahead, and then
yeah,
the town doesn't know anything.
yeah.
Yeah, right. No, I.
Whereas if you're appointed to the board or the review board, it's a life term.
Yeah. Well, or the review board always has some history.
Yeah,
They're,
They have great
There's
continuity,
graduated turnover, yeah.
they have long, yeah,
I mean, they have minutes,
yeah.
I'm assuming,
yeah,
Right, got minutes.
I haven't written them yet, but
they're
most of
they're
them,
supposed to be following comprehensive plan.
Yeah,
yeah,
no, I think.
as is a code officer, but
But I guess I hadn't thought of it, but I think your suggestion is a good one. It's not a
Surprising.
subdivision, but still reviewed by the review board.
I hadn't thought of it that way either,
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna run it by our planner,
Okay,
see what she says.
she doesn't like it, you can blame it on me.
If she squawks, she'll probably say, run it by Guy or something, but no, I will if she does, but, okay. That's great. So most of the rest of it, so I think other changes, oh, go ahead.
Have we made a decision about minor subdivisions? Have we made a firm decision?
Oh, what's the question? Go ahead. Minor subdivisions, because I have in my head, so I want you
2
to.
to 5, 4 to 5, where do they go? Review board, code officer.
no, review board for sure. No, I think we.
But I'm just rehearsing.
Yeah.
What decisions we've made.
So what I'm understanding, or what I shouldn't say I'm understanding, because maybe the question's open, but what I'm proposing. So now we have lot line adjustments are not subdivisions, those are reviewed by the review board to be, not violating the zoning, comprehensive plan, whatever, so. Minor subdivisions result in lots, 2 to 4 lots. And those get the minor subdivision process, they're reviewed by the review board, minor subdivision process, 1-step process. Major subdivisions are 5 or more subdivisions, this is the way it is in like every other town. And those get a 2-step process, which includes, if needed be, the consideration of dedication of
roads and stuff.
roads and things like that. Does that answer your
Yes,
question?
Yes. Yeah, I just wanted us to remind ourselves.
Solidify it.
Solidify it, yeah.
Okay,
Any other thoughts or questions about that alternatives or?
Well, again, the reason that this was brought up to us, particularly by the planning board, was out of concern that it's too complicated to have things done by the review board,
Mhm.
and that it would be simpler to have minor subdivisions handled by the code officer. And or the code officer and the chair of the zoning.
Okay.
review board.
And so what you mean by minor subdivisions are 2-lot subdivisions, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the response to that, I believe that our common response to that is follows the same logic of lot line
Right.
adjustments
Mhm.
yeah,
that, and this is the advice also that we've received from our attorney,
Yeah.
frankly,
yeah,
And planner.
is that everything should go to the review board for consistency
yes,
and just to have extra eyes on everything.
I agree.
But I just wanted to
Yep.
us to articulate this again. And also, I'm not convinced, I mean, I think that the planning board was very, very concerned about an onerous process involving the review board. And I just don't see the review board as an onerous body. In other words, I don't think that because there's a review, that doesn't have to mean that's cantankerous or contentious
Mhm.
or annoying
Ornery.
or anything. It's the procedure. And it's a procedure to protect the public and also to make things public.
Yeah.
So I
No, I
just
agree with
wanted us
that.
to be clear about
Yes,
this.
I agree.
Because I think it's important also for us to gently, acknowledge the concerns of the planning board
Mhm.
and understand their logic in presenting us
Oh,
those
absolutely.
alternatives.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, so I agree that, there's the whole subdivision lots thing, it is, as you chop up land, that's setting the trajectory of the town forever. So I just think this is so important, and I think having the review, having this review process be reasonable, I think. So Bill pointed out that a whole, majority of the subdivisions were subdivisions that resulted in 2 lots, just. But that's, I think that needs, even if it's not, and most of them won't be an involved process. I think it needs the review board review. And most of the town is in the ag rural district, where it says 3-acre averaging under the zoning law. And if we're gonna do that right, it needs to be administered well. And I think this is the way to do it.
And codified well, and the way that the zoning law is written, it's the review board that is responsible for codifying
Mhm.
those plats.
Yeah,
And to take any of it out of the review board is only gonna confuse things in that
Yeah,
regard.
I agree.
I agree.
Can I just go back to the lot line adjustment text? for a
No,
second?
we're done with those. Yeah. go ahead.
I mentioned to you that there was a sentence that's screwed up and it happens to be in the lot line adjustment paragraph. But since you're gonna change that, see,
What page is that?
it's on page 11. where-
Okay,
You see what I'm saying? You
I
how
see
that-
what you're saying,
Yeah.
yeah.
But if you're gonna change this, then you can change that.
Yeah,
sentence.
this is my copy, right? So,
This-
or is this
No,
yours?
this is my copy.
Okay. Oh, here's mine. I saw this tag here. I thought that was, so that's page what, 11?
11 on this.
I better
on
mark
the
it or else-
Printed copy,
You mentioned that before.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
so you could just take that
yeah,
so it
out.
is authorized, period, or
but it's gonna be changed.
just get rid
because-
of officer.
It's gonna be changed because it'll be the review board
Yeah,
anyway.
Yep.
But,
So,
And so would there be somebody in the review board would sign and stamp the lot line adjustment plan? Who would actually sign and
Board.
stamp?
The chair.
Okay,
Mhm.
well, anyway, since that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the part I was saying need to be changed.
Yep.
Now we're changing it.
Yep.
Even more, so.
Great.
okay.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, procedurally, administratively, these applications, even for lot line adjustments, still go through code and zoning officer procedurally, who then forwards them to the review board,
Okay.
or do they go to the town clerk who forwards them to the review board?
That's a good
I
point.
mean, I would like everything to go through the code
So
officer,
the code officer should know what's going
so
on.
he
Yeah.
knows what's going on.
Right, that seems good.
We haven't figured out the procedure yet, you know, for some of this stuff.
That's, yeah, we've drifted back and forth on that, so we should be clear. It's weird because like the official, you know, like the town clerk is sort of the hub. So, but I kind of agree that
Yeah, I think it should go through the code officer.
code officer,
Should
okay.
at least see it.
Well, that's something that maybe we need to discuss with the town clerk
Yeah,
and the code officer, just to figure it out. Right, Jesse?
She's still not listening.
wow, we did,
Right,
yeah,
right.
she's. she's-
Okay, now we know.
But we'll figure it out, but I just wanted to bring that up because I think.
It is, I mean, how does it say it in here now? Receiving complete, the code officer shall, oh, yeah. So lot line adjustments in this version go to the code officer, right?
Yeah, so that's why you have to change them.
Mhm.
I mean, you're gonna have to change that whole section. I mean, there's,
Yeah.
it's mentioned
Well,
periodically.
no, but the first, so B, so let's go to this, 204,
Yeah,
204A submitted.
to and reviewed and approved by the code enforcement
Well,
officer.
we can
We'll just change
adjust that one
to
way or the
Yeah.
other, can be submitted to the code officer, reviewed and approved by the review
Well,
board.
anyway, yes.
Okay.
Da-da-da-da.
So
And then B,
Yeah.
in B, require submission survey, blah, blah, blah. Code officer may require entire portion parcel. That should still be the code officer that puts together the materials for the review board for this review, right? So B should stay as it is.
But it would need to, I mean,
Isn't that right?
need the whole, I mean, the code officer won't be deciding whether or not it goes
Well,
to
you're right.
review and law
You're right.
review.
Because the review board's got to decide about surveys, you're right.
Yeah, should be the review board, right?
Vote, yep,
Yeah.
yep, okay.
So even and then in C, the number one is gonna, anyway, probably almost every
Yeah,
paragraph's gonna have to be changed.
it's gonna
Yeah,
have to
I mean,
be,
the application still should, I mean, the question is whether the application should go through the code office or through the clerk.
mhm.
And who sends it to the review board? So that's what we need to clarify with Jesse.
Hmm.
In particular. Right,
Yeah,
Mhm.
I mean, I just like us to have a process
mhm.
That's
where
good.
more than one person knows what's going on.
Yeah,
I think that's important.
yeah, definitely.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay,
So it's like,
And also not to load absolutely everything on the town clerk.
right,
But I will just add that, usually as things come into the office, for code office or review board, they'll be dropping it to my office anyway. So I think that is probably best practice.
yeah, but then I guess the question is, then does it go to the code officer first before he sends it to the review board, right? Or not, I mean, we're trying to figure out how to keep the code officer in the loop.
So
Right.
clerk, code officer, review board,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3.
Well, clerk code officer is not a big deal because it simply means putting it
Yeah.
in one box as opposed to
Right.
another,
Yeah, but then to the review board.
but then to the review board.
code
Oh.
officer, something.
I mean, my proposal would be that it's the code officer or zoning officer in this case, who is the organizational conduit for forwarding stuff to the.
Who can kind of look at the
board.
materials and make
Yeah.
sure they're adequate.
Yeah, so that's.
Yeah, I agree with
The
that.
review board doesn't have to mess with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That makes sense, Jesse? Do you?
Absolutely.
so
Great.
you would take out this no referrals to review board shall be required.
I'm just gonna have to sit down afterwards and go
Yeah.
through it. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, yeah.
What section is that? Two oh
It's
four?
still- Yeah, it's that 204. I have a feeling it's all 204, right? Yeah. It's all section 204.
Great.
That's pretty right, yeah. 'Cause that's, yeah, that's the review law and adjustment section.
Sorry.
No, it's
Not at
great.
all.
It's great to get this.
So, there was a draft where I put in, I asked Nan to put in some the language about, the responsibility of the applicant to file and then Guy sent some other information, so I shared that with Nan today, and we had a conversation, so, so I think she's gonna make like a, reader's aid box that explains this responsibility and refers to the relevant laws, so.
So this is for submitting the final materials to the county clerk. Right,
Yeah,
pretty much. And whether it's the applicant or the town that does that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, it's the applicant.
It's the applicant.
That's good, so. Great, okay, super. So there are a few, there's editorial typos and things, or, little, and I think, I agree with, I believe all of the Guy made very few comments on the last draft. So the first one was on page 5. I would add a proviso here that whenever reference is made to a statute, law, or regulation, the reference is to that matter as it is now written, or as it may hereafter be amended or recodified. I think that's wise. So he stated that a couple times. So I'm good with that. Yeah, also on page 8. And then, oh yeah, page 11 is where I put in the real property tax law thing, and so she's gonna work on that. As to who is responsible for filing. And there's gonna be some, like the reader's aid box that I really liked that she added on page 14, because I said I would like to, something that explains the rationale for having preliminary plat review and final plat review. So she made that, but you can see it has the optional minor subdivision
What page is that on?
thing, this is page 14. So, anyway, that'll get amended. A guy pointed out in one, let's see, there was a reference to steep slopes.
Yeah, it's before that page.
Did you catch that too,
Yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah,
What page is that?
it's page 8 on my copy.
Oh, okay. We passed it.
Mhm.
Yep. Steep slopes definition.
Mhm.
So I looked, and that is the copy definition for the zoning law. But it should be 15%. And because I looked in the text of the zoning law, it talks about steep slopes starting at 15%. There are different categories of steep slopes. So that's an amendment for the zoning law in the future, for that definition, but Guy really, that is a good catch there.
Yeah.
So I'm good, I think.
So we're keeping it at the 25?
No,
We're changing it to 15?
he puts in quotes,
Okay.
any slope that exceeds 15% at any point along a surface is presumptively a steep slope for purposes of review under this local law.
Okay.
I think that's perfect. And it's not, It's editorial for the zoning law because the substance of the zoning law has the right numbers in it, so.
Right.
It's just could create confusion.
Yes, I just remember the zoning law distinguishes between 0 to 15, 15 to 25, 25 over.
Okay.
And it was, the emphasis was on the degree, not whether it's steep slope. or not.
Yeah,
Have the zoning law right here.
I don't think there was too much more.
He has this comment on page 20 about proctors of dedication. Proctors of
That was all in response to my little comment about this seems out of place here. And then Ned said, it does seem that way, but it does fit here. And then Guy said, I agree. So I'm saying, I agree, leave it alone, sorry. So basically, all of that can go away.
Yeah.
So, and then on the next
Sometimes
page,
it's comments just gonna make your eyes
Yeah.
flutter, yeah.
the next page is also my fault, I think. So this is like this mushroomed into something that it wasn't intended. So under 702 C says there's the red crossed out as to form. And so I crossed that out because I didn't see what as to form really meant or contributed to the sentence.
Mm.
And then I put a comment and said, I said, is this needed or needed question mark? And Nan said, yes, I think that is needed. Is this an issue? But she was talking about the whole state and the substance.
Yeah.
And then Guy commented, yeah, I generally agree. So that's my fault. So, never mind on that one too.
That's it, right?
I really, isn't that it?
I think that's
I
it.
think that's it.
So how come I think I've had this feeling that I'm forgetting something? So anyway, so yeah, so I told Nan said she'd wait till she heard from me tomorrow after this meeting. I would tell her what we decided for sure, and she'll start making the amendments. And then I figure I'll get back to you if there's any reactions to what we decided. I think it'll be fine. And then I think we should introduce it. When should we introduce it? I'll see what she says tomorrow. Now, I think I said introduce it at the August 7th meeting, but maybe we could introduce it next week,
I'd
right?
love to
Yeah.
introduce it next
I think
week.
that'd be great.
Yeah, okay. I'll see if we can do that. I don't see why not. Why,
Sure.
I think I was just confused on dates,
The
so,
decisions are all made now.
yeah, okay.
Then we would be able to ideally have a public hearing
Right, that's what I was thinking, the first meeting. and
First
then
meeting of
go
August.
From there,
and go from there and get this done.
Yeah.
okay,
And that would give us the kind of law protection that it doesn't currently have.
yeah. Yeah. Good, okay. If you think of anything else, let me know, but I think that's it.
And you put on your little list to change the slope for the zoning law when we get around to changing the zoning law?
Yes. I'm gonna mark that in my hard copy in the
Okay.
back, I'm gonna have
Okay.
a little to-do list.
I know you're keeping a list.
What's that?
I said, I know you're keeping a list.
I don't really have a list yet.
No?
You know, I don't think so.
No?
Not you.
This can be
If you have things, tell me.
Been around for 4 months.
That'd be the first thing.
It's not rush things.
Okay,
So
great.
then we just have this resolution about the site plan review applications.
Yeah, so that came up last night. So the review board pointed out that, for a complete application, they have to pay the review fee and they have to have an application. So I wrote the application earlier today and I asked Craig and Brian
And me.
and you, yeah, about the fee and they thought $50 was about the right amount, so that's where I said it. We'll add this to our fee schedule.
You get the second or anything?
Yeah, so I'll put it forward. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second.
Seconded by Michelle. And any further questions? So, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, unanimous. So we'll revise the fee schedule accordingly. And and do we have any comments on the June 20th town board meeting minutes?
No.
No?
No.
Good. They are hereby approved. Thank you. And agenda items for next week's meeting. We meet next week because we delayed this meeting a week. So Grasson from the Community Science Institute. I invited her a while ago to give us a presentation. We contribute to CSI every year to support their efforts for water testing. Our streams and stuff, so she's gonna give us a 10 to 15 minute presentation at next week's meeting. And so we'll have introduction of the subdivision law. And Cal had mentioned a while back that we have some early budget discussions, so maybe we should just look over the budget and think about it for next week. Maybe I'll have more information from Municipal Solutions. And does that sound good?
Will we be able to have a look at where the current budget stands?
Yeah.
That's what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, so I reviewed the trial balance and sent it back to Velvet for some amendments, and then I'll share it with you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And when do you start budget with units in August?
So usually August 1, I send out budget requests. I think I'll send them out sooner, like now. And just, move it forward a half month or whatever. There's no reason not to, so people can start thinking about it. I have to submit the first budget, the tentative budget, to you guys. I think it's by September 20th. So coming up,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Have we heard back from the
No,
highway engineers yet?
no, I wanted to talk to Bob about that. I haven't seen him this week, but I'll try to talk to him tomorrow. Because I know he had a phone call with Dave Kay. So I wanted to see what they talked about and if he had an idea when they're gonna have. They said 4 weeks from when we last talked to him, so I think it's evident.
Yeah, it should be.
Oh, the other thing for next week, so Mike forwarded us the 2 building energy studies for this, so I think we should put those on the agenda for next week. And post the 2 studies. So that the public can read those and grapple with think about what we're gonna do.
And you said that have those studies been seen by our town hall group?
Oh, yes,
Like
yeah, both of them
Susan and.
by Susan and Steve, yeah,
Yeah,
and myself and maybe even Cal, so.
okay.
Yeah, they've been, and I forwarded you Steve's, did I forward you that? So Steve Gibeon did a comparative thing.
Yes, yes.
So that was helpful,
Very telling.
and there was a conversation, Susan, Steve, and Mike both weighed in. I looked at them briefly this afternoon and I have copies here. If anybody, I only have 2 copies, but I'll print more if people want them. They're definitely worth reading, because,
I think we all want them.
okay,
Yeah.
do you all want hard copies? Okay. Damn, I wish I'd just done it. So,
If you'll have them tomorrow, I can stop it tomorrow.
okay, I'll definitely have them tomorrow.
And you had mentioned talking about the noise ordinance next week.
Oh, yeah,
Well, I think we at least should
We need to talk, so, yes, address it.
address it.
Yeah,
let's see, energy studies.
I should say, address the request for. a noise
Yes.
ordinance, not-
Yes,
not an
I mean, we
actual-
want to frame it so that we're not proposing anything.
Right,
I mean,
We'd like to address the request to consider,
could we just discuss it now?
why not?
Okay.
We have a few minutes. I mean, I guess I would like to reply. And I guess, I did talk to Joel and Danby. They've been working on noise ordinance for a few years now. And it's not easy. They've done 2 and pulled them back, and they're working on another one with Guy and an engineer. So.
what have been the problems?
I don't know the details, but it's, the biggest problem with noise is it can be subjective. Different things are different to different people. It's, I mean, Tim can tell you his perspective. I mean, I think it's difficult because it is, it's subjective and it's different for different people. So,
I mean, I think it's important that, especially the citizen understands that the town has grappled with this for a long time
mhm,
and actually composed its own potential law,
mhm,
because he went off and made up his own. And also we have to explain to him, just to be in good faith, that we have a procedure working with the planning board to develop these kinds of laws, but also from my point of view, most importantly, is the zoning commission spent a lot of sweat considering whether or not noise should be incorporated into the zoning law,
yeah,
and made a reasoned judgment partially based upon the town's own history in considering this. That now is not the time to do so, and it wouldn't have been the time to wrap it into the zoning law. And I'm personally still inclined to think that now is not the time to do this. Given the fact that we have still to grow into our zoning law that we haven't even put to the test yet.
I think there was some mention about noise in a general way, right?
In a very general way, but
Following
as
state
you remember,
guidelines.
the zoning commission decided to really
Right,
keep that at a relative
And-
distance.
I kind of feel like part of the thing was, people said, oh, the zoning law is it's just gonna be an excuse to introduce a noise ordinance, and we said, no, it's not.
yeah.
And so to now introduce a noise ordinance would be like. way back
It would
on-
be good to have some kind, I mean, you know, he came, he said this is damaging his business, he's trying to, you know, and so what else can be done? If we can't have a noise ordinance right now, I mean, we're not gonna make one next month. That's not gonna happen.
So,
Is there another way we could somehow help? I don't really, I mean, the situations seem to be extreme. And, you know, not in the normal, it's not just a tractor, it's not just the trucks putting on brakes going down the hill, right? It's,
it sounded like it's a thing between neighbors, and that one neighbor is deliberately
right,
aggravating another neighbor, and I don't know if the town board should be involved in that. I'm just not sure it's our limit. As much as you want to try to solve everything, And I don't mean you personally, as much as one wants to solve everything. I'm not sure
Mhm.
in this case. I mean, because the only thing I can think of is like, let's get everybody in a room and figure out what's going on. That's what, but it's kind of involving counseling of neighbors, you know, and so I don't see that that's our. I mean, I would be happy to talk to both of them. I'm really curious about what's going on, but,
Yeah, it's not,
but I don't think that's our job.
you could do it as a neighbor if you wanted to.
I've been tempted to just drive up there and say like, what is he talking about? Like, what's going on?
I haven't,
You have?
no, when I drive by there
Oh.
very frequently. I'm
Never.
keeping my windows open.
I talk about
Okay,
stopping.
so-
That doesn't mean a thing.
Yeah, so I'm just, but I mean,
Well, I'd
so-
say I would like to know, maybe things have improved, maybe things have gotten worse. I mean, I don't know, I know we're not, you know, we're not town councilors. I mean, we are town council, but anyway, but you know what I mean.
counselors in another.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's,
and I don't think you can necessarily have a law for everything. That's the other thing.
this is not the first time the idea of a noise ordinance has been brought up.
Correct.
And it has affected, there have been instances where more than just one person has been affected.
Yeah,
So I would expect it will come up again.
Yeah.
You know,
but
but it should go to the planning board. I liked what Tim said about that.
And ideally be brought up by more than one citizen.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I
something,
mean, ideally, if in the past, new laws have tended to come out of vocal concern by numbers of citizens from different parts of the town.
right,
comprehensive plan.
Ideally, that's what we would then feel compelled to respond to, you know, as opposed to a neighbor dispute.
Yeah,
I mean, we have had, I can remember
Yeah.
in the recent past, there was another neighbor dispute over a rooster.
I remember that one too.
And again, the town board
Well,
just
there
had to
are
say,
places we're not allowed to
it's
own.
not our territory.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
we're not that kind of community where there's certain places you can't own roosters, right? You can own
We are
roosters
not.
anywhere. That's
I
why I
would
like
like to hear roosters, but anyway,
roosters. Yeah,
and there was one someplace and the rooster was crowing all night. I don't know why.
But anyway, so,
it must have been danger.
so the question is who is going to respond to him and how?
Yeah,
I'd be happy to. I
And,
mean, he's definitely,
and we have discussed
Well
when they're
intentioned.
concerned, you know,
yeah.
and we appreciate his.
that's why I don't want to
efforts.
wait a week to respond.
Right.
It feels like, you know,
No,
But we can't even begin to consider somebody's well-intentioned revision of the city of Ithaca's noise ordinance that's crafted to contain student parties.
yeah. You know, it's just a very complicated issue and it's one that, you know, we tried to address years ago, a few years, and it didn't work.
yeah,
And it was divisive and we've just gone through a very divisive phase and I just don't want to start another divisive.
yeah, so I think we're all agreed.
We would do it.
Thank you for the, so is it okay if I?
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay,
If you're willing to do so.
yeah, I'd be happy to.
And I mean, I would be happy to talk with him further if you'd like to, you know.
Yeah, I think, I was talk to both of them, figure out what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, we had that kind of training, but
Great. Good, okay, I'm glad we had that. So, I thought of something, but no, it went away for next week, but I don't know. That seems like it,
you can add it.
okay, if I think of it later.
Yeah.
Okay. So maybe it was that I remembered that I want to go, that we wanted to go into brief executive session before the end of the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to go into executive session.
Okay.
To discuss
Second,
personnel. So,
Okay.
second by Tim.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Bye.
Opposed? Great, thanks.